here. We postponed it for a week, and for obvious reasons, we're still dealing with people coming back from vacation. So we're standing by, waiting for a quorum. And if we don't get one in a relatively timely fashion, then we will have to call the meeting and everything, take Sarah's home. No. I think that's an excellent. That's true. Actually, I mean, all right, tell you what, I'm going to, okay. Okay, well, what we're going to do essentially is, if there are any community announcements, we can have those now. But since people are here, and if there's anyone here who wants to make a community announcement, obviously, they can do that. Oh, who's first?
So, the Business Improvement District has broken ground at White Oak. Everybody's probably seen that. And they're having an annual stakeholder meeting on Sunday, January, that's 26th, whatever that weekend is, January 26th, at 4 o'clock. The Sunday, and the Women's Club, which is over at Granada. Granada's Women's Club on White Oak, just directly, a couple blocks away. And it's open to everyone here to come by to this open house. I'll send some emails to the board, and maybe people can check the community website on it. And they're going to show pictures of what's going on with what it's called the White Oak Project, and you'll sort of start seeing little things be installed, and seating areas, walkways. It's going to be really pretty on all 4 corners of that intersection. So put it on the calendar for January 26th to show up Sunday at 4 o'clock at the Women's Club. Refreshments will be served, and there'll be some booths and entertainment for people to just check out a few things that are happening in Granada in the Business Improvement District.
And some indulgence.
All genders.
Don't believe it. Okay, hold on, please. All right. Tell you what,
Are you still taking public announcements?
well, I was actually going to start the meeting since.
Well, you would open it up for announcements before you started, so I thought I'd put one in if that's
Sure.
okay.
Okay, go ahead.
I just want to say, I'm speaking for the Stakeholder Empowerment Enlightenment Coalition. This is a group of stakeholders that have been meeting and trying to figure out how to help city council, help the neighborhood councils do better at communicating with the public. We are going to be having a meeting in February, and the keynote speaker is, at this time, is scheduled to be Mr. Fred Gaines, who is a very well-known attorney in the Los Angeles system, and he'll be speaking to us about the Brownheim at that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, upon advice of the parliamentarian, we are going to call a meeting to order. We are not going to be able to conduct votes because we don't have a quorum, but we certainly can get moving down through the public comments and so forth. So, this is the annual meeting or rather the monthly meeting of the Granada South Neighborhood Council. Please everyone rise. Rob, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
Put your right hand over your heart for us, salute if you are ready. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Matthews, just for the record, can you take the roll?
Yes, sir. President Brad Smith,
Here.
Vice President Jerry Askew,
Here.
Secretary Anthony Matthews here, and I told you, Mr. President, I was going to leave at 7:30.
Yep.
Michael Benedetto,
Here.
Jeffrey Bora,
Here.
Tony Burst, prisoner Crawford Valesco, Arthur A. Dash,
Josh is on his way.
Jet Dunlap,
Excused.
Gina Breshner,
Excused.
Varun Karuna, Ron, so Sally Holster,
Is on her way.
John Lopez,
Here.
Eric Manska,
Here.
Jim Summers, he's going to be on his way, so he'll be late.
Okay.
Renee Trinidad,
Mr. Trinidad is excused.
Ross Chomel, Cindy Lou Friedman,
And she is also excused.
and non-board members Michael J. Carbo is here, the parliamentarian. We have 2 open spaces, open slots on the board, community organizations and faith-based. And Mr. President, I do have another gentleman who's just expressed interest in the community organization. Just got that email today.
Okay,
I'll discuss.
sure. All right, we need 11, we have 8, we have 2 on the way. So in essence, what we're going to do is go past the approval of minutes because we'll need to vote on that. We will go to item 4, public comment.
Right, I'm gonna vote on the roll call.
Yep.
Ross Terrell said he sent an email. So
Oh.
he excused.
Yes, he's excused.
Ross.
Well, I have 9 here, Mr. President. I have Brad, Jerry, Anthony, I've marked Brandon, sorry, I skipped right over him, my mistake, sorry.
So, we will do what we can. All right, so public comment, community public comment on non-agenda items. Public may present concerns to the board on any issues in the community. The board will not be able to discuss or take action on any matters brought up during public comment. However, issues raised during public comment may be agendized for discussion at future board meetings. If obviously the issue that you're concerned about is agendized, please wait for the agenda item. Mr. Secretary, do we have any speakers cards at the moment?
I have 3 here, Mr. President. The first one is Maria Smith or Erin Askew.
In case anyone's missing, speakers cards, agendas, and all the other documents are on the back table there towards the door.
Good evening, everybody. I am here from the Granada Hills Chamber of Commerce. I'd like to talk to you about the installation dinner we have coming up. It'll be our 87th annual installation dinner, of directors and officers in our awards ceremony. This event takes place on Friday, February 27th, just a little more than a month away, at the Odyssey Restaurant. It promises to be a lovely evening with cocktails starting at 6, dinner at 7. Along with honoring our officers of the board, we will be announcing and presenting the award for the Guild Benjamin Citizen of the Year. Last year's winner was our very own Bonnie Burst. The cost of the dinner is $75. However, don't say what, however, this year will be extending a discounted price to the board members of the North and South neighborhood councils. The ticket price for each board member is $35, which is basically less than half of the price you would normally pay. This is a deal you need to take advantage of. So you can afford to spend a ticket to buy your ticket for your guests to attend as well then. Additional tickets can be purchased at the regular price of $75. We are having some great sponsorship opportunities, which are listed on the flyer we'll be presenting to you right now. To add to the excitement of the evening, we'll be having a raffle, a silent auction, and a live auction. There'll be some great items to bid on, such as tickets for local entertainment and sporting events, exciting vacation getaways, dining experiences, and other unique items. We are hoping that everyone here can attend. By the way, the master of ceremony for the installation dinner is Mr. Askew himself. So I hope you plan to attend. I'll have flyers here for everybody.
I don't think you should, what time?
The 6 o'clock cocktail, 7 o'clock dinner. So remember, make sure you guys each get one of these. See?
Brandon,
All right, we're getting within striking distance of the forum. Thank you for saying that.
You might want to announce also that today is if there's any more nominees for Citizen of the Year, they need to communicate that to the chamber today. The fax or email, just the name of it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Everybody gets one, everybody should.
Right, next public comment speaker is me. I'm speaking to you in my role as the Parks and Cultural Arts Director. There is some information which I think is worthy of noting right here. Saturday, January the 31st, that's about 3 Saturdays away, Los Angeles is having its 10th annual Museums Free-for-All. And there's a whole list of 25 museums which are going to be free on that day. There's a couple of them that are actually open on Saturdays, and in that case they're going to be open on the Sunday for free. The kind of museums that are going to be open for free on that day include the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, the MoCA, the Museum of Contemporary Art, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, the California Science Center, which is free that day, but you've got to book if you want to see the Endeavor. Pasadena Museum, I meant to book the time, that's my time reservations. There's the Pasadena Museum of California Art, Skirball Cultural Center, the Noah's Ark time tickets again, and also William S. Hart out here in Newport, which if you haven't been there, that's kind of a fun day out in the park. So I am going to, this is on the website, it's on the council agenda that Aaron sends out, but if you've been thinking of taking the family out to the museum, you know how much it racks up if you've got a family going. This is the day to do it, so I just wanted you all to know that.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews.
Saturday, January the 31st.
You said we had a third?
The man who needs no introduction. Are you coming down now?
Yeah, pretty good. Hi, everybody. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. I'm here again because I'm exercising, my right as a public citizen to speak up at public meetings. The preamble and first section of the Brown Act, talks about, openness and things like that. Also talks about the public having the right to criticize the actions of the board if they don't like it. Now, that doesn't mean the board has to agree with them or not. And that's okay too. Like, I don't necessarily agree with the money being spent on the town clock, but that's my opinion. But the board also has an obligation to provide a grievance procedure for the urban council plan, which comes under the city charter. And when a board establishes a grievance procedure in their bylaws, I would hope that they would do everything in their power to follow that grievance procedure. I filed a grievance last month. I noticed it wasn't on the agenda tonight for solicitation of stakeholders for a grievance panel. I also filed one during the month regarding the creation of the ad hoc committee at the last month's meeting, which just didn't agree with the description of what an ad hoc committee should be. I didn't get a response to these grievances until I complained, and then the last couple of days I got a response. The response came from the chair, and basically at the advice of the city attorney, the grievances were being dismissed because, for whatever reason, I don't really understand how a grievance can be dismissed by an individual board member. I believe that it would be a board decision as to whether a grievance had merit or not. Maybe the appropriate thing would have been to hold a special meeting or an executive meeting to discuss the merits of it. So before it's dismissed, and I don't see that it's not addressed on the agenda, the stakeholder needs to know what your position is a little bit more in advance than waiting for the agenda. And again, you probably sent the agenda in to be posted on the website for tonight's meeting, but it didn't make it up 72 hours in advance. Now, I don't know whether that's a fault of the board here or it has something to do with the webmaster not getting it up. But in any case, the requirements are that it should be there 72 hours in advance. When it's not there, I have to drive by the Chamber of Commerce to see if there's a meeting. Then I see an agenda because that's Brown Act that it gets posted. And, you know, the city attorney's supposed to keep you out of trouble, advising you not to hear a grievance and not to respect the public rights and to not follow the rules isn't really good advice on their part. There's no requirement of the board to follow the city's attorney's advice if you feel doing the right thing is something other than what they have said. I just feel like, you know, it's become a real battle here. I'd like to stop being up here and saying what I have to say, but the only way that's going to happen is when I see the rules are being followed. We still have no standing rules for this Granada Hills South, even though the bylaws mention standing rules, they don't exist. So I'm asking that at least one board member would ask to be put on the agenda or refer to the bylaws committee that they address the issue of the standing rules that don't exist that are referenced in the bylaws. I'm concluded. Thank you very much, Mr. Matthews. Thank you very much, board members.
Mr. Matthews, anybody else?
No. Okay.
Thank you. And just
You're-
for a matter of record, this is a copy of the email I sent in after last month's discussion. I'm assuming everybody read their emails.
Okay, quick note, Mr. Summers has arrived, Mr. Schimmelman has arrived. We are still south of one person. Mr. Dosh and Ms. Kolstad are on their way, so as soon as we can, we will. Let's see, community speakers, Ms. Ornes from CB12 is not here.
I'm sorry, Mr. President, we skipped over approval of minutes from the last
We
meeting.
have a vote.
Oh, we don't have, I'm sorry.
That's okay. No problem.
Sorry.
It's a new year, we'll do better. Officer Del Corey is not here. Okay, let's see. Just, so again, if everyone's aware, we do have 2 open seats. We have a community organization seat, where the requirement basically is to be active in community organizations, and be here in Granada Hills. And we have a opening for a faith-based seat, where the requirement is essentially to be active in faith-based organizations and be here in Granada Hills. And, we have one person who I've spoken with about one of the seats and a couple others. I hope very much to have names for us to consider in February. But if anyone's interested, there are 2 open seats, and if someone has the time to come to every meeting, they can always step forward. And committee meetings, yeah, at least 2 or 3 committee meetings. Okay. So, I apologize, let's see, what else could we do? Okay. 8, sure. Number 8, officer report, president. That was my report. Vice president? No report. Okay. Oh, wait, so, welcome back. Thank you. Mr. Secretary, officer report? Okay.
I could at least mention what our challenge is. Maybe state.
No, we don't have to vote.
You don't vote.
No, no, just on the challenge.
Informational? Sure.
That's it. According to last bank statement, the remaining cash in the bank is $2,158.95. Cash that was spent to date is $10,175.60, and that's just on the report. Yeah. Basically, I could run through a thing about bank statement, but.
Yeah, you have to do it with recording, so. Let's see. Oh, sure. You know what, we can try for community reports, or committee reports rather, especially there's no action. So for 8, sub 1 is first, okay, this is beautification.
No, I guess pending is the improvement district project that I started.
Okay. Thank you. Anything from the budget chair, Mr. Chair? Got you right in the mouthful, didn't I?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
there's something else.
All right. Mr. Mansker, we have to hold off on that. Mr. Summers. The motions committee, and we have some things next month, but can you give us a report on the tree lighting and the parade?
Sure, both were very successful events. Parade, I'd like to thank some people, Brad, who drove the parade along with
Mike Benedetto, who supplied the car and drove.
Excellent job, too.
Without an accident, I may add.
Hit my Amber.
Oh, really?
Because they had a truck.
Oh, you would?
That's right. I was in Little Butte,
Yeah, well, that was good. And next time, I think we could arrange for next year when it comes to the car. It should be like kind of like a big honor to have, and we should have like a stakeholder of the year for Granada Hills and maybe somebody else in there. Brad, you're important, I know that, but I mean, in addition to the president.
No, that's fine. I
So,
mean-
and we can start now for getting a car and making all the arrangements because it came at the last minute. But congratulations and thank you to all those who have done that.
This actually was the first year I've ever not worked for it. So.
Okay. And then, also the tree lighting was very good. We had the people from Granada Hills Charter here, their choir, and we had, the choir from, Valley Academy, of the Arts and Sciences. It went together very good for a last minute thing, but again, this is the first time we've ever done it, and we're looking forward to doing it even better. I'd like to thank Mark for getting a little cable that we needed, and Eric also for doing all the instruments and all our speakers there last minute. Jerry found out he was gonna be the speaker. And it is a good event, and it is something that's really special for Granada Hills because that Christmas tree is, I think it might be now the largest one in LA County that's alive and permanent. I know what used to be the second largest. And other cities make a big deal out of this, you know, not only New York City, but all cities. And it is a community tree, and it is something that everybody gets together, and we're very proud of it. So we're looking forward to making even a bigger event for next year. I think that's it for now. Oh, I'm sorry. Next outreach meeting will be, next Wednesday, I think it's the 14th, 7 p.m. And it'll be at St. Euphrasia Church. And the big key we're gonna be doing there is we're gonna start looking at our, survey to the community. And we have other events coming up too that we're kind of gonna plan out the whole half of the first year. So we hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Eric.
Yeah, one thing I did want to bring up, we need you to have a key right now, Brad, the only one who has a key. I think it's important that since you're the outreach chair, that you be able to get in to our storage facility.
Okay, thank you.
We'll work it out.
Yeah, all I'm saying is, I think one other person should also have a key. Or not just Jim, but Grant, and maybe Jerry.
Yeah.
Any other questions about outreach before Roy?
Yes, I was going to comment that, high intensity, high temperature light bulbs, and it's actually one of the lenses in practice of an electric temperature and it's working on it. So it's kind of compared to fluorescent light, the focus on it, or LED, and the LED sample that we got is not from the both, and so I'm making modifications to it. I'm going to sell a couple of it for,
Oh, great. Well, I'll put you on the ad hoc committee for that. Okay? We have an ad hoc committee we're gonna have for the Christmas lights. So it's. Sorry,
Okay, let the record reflect that Ms. Colstat and Mr. Dosh are here, and personally, I just want to thank you both very much. Truly.
7:02.
Quorum, so we can do things. So,
It gets us to 12, but it's
More
not
than
even
a quorum.
we will still have a quorum.
okay, so going back to agenda item 3, approval of minutes from December 2014. If you haven't had a chance to look at these, please, I'm sorry, I'll pass this to Andy. You're interrupting.
Can we have a chance to look at this, please, now? Do I hear any comments on the minutes of the December 4th minutes? Hearing no comments, I will call for a vote.
Mr.
in
Matthews.
reverse order. Sorry?
Mr. Matthews, have a speaker card in?
Sorry?
Have a speaker card in?
Oh, you do?
Yes, it is. It's the one in Spanish.
Who seconded?
Okay, who's seconding the motion? Okay, Darren is seconding the motion. Okay, Mr. Cusman. Public comment.
The first thing that I want to bring up is the motion from the Bylaws and Rules Committee regarding the establishment of the Governmental Affairs Committee. Do you have a copy of last month's agenda? Because the motion was exactly as worded on the agenda, but an amendment was made to the motion to strike the word standing and replace it with ad hoc, and that is how the motion was approved.
What page and agenda?
This is page 5 of 8, section 8, committee reports, number 3. In addition to this motion not reading exactly as it was passed, there's no mention in here of when board, I'm sorry, I have to mention names because they're not on here and they left the meeting early and I don't see that notation of when Ms. Wu left the meeting and when Krista left the meeting. That's it.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote in reverse order. All those opposed to the motion, please signify by raising your hands. Any abstentions?
That wasn't an agenda.
Okay. In that case, sorry? That's one abstention from Brad. All others approving? Okay. In that case, that's, the minutes are approved.
Well done, excellent, thank you. Okay. All right, who's going to, okay. Okay, one thing I would like to, especially since Sally is here, Sally, do you have anything from education you want to speak to?
Do I have anything left?
From education? Okay, thank you. All right, do we have anybody from public safety emergency preparedness who's here right now? Any numbers? Anything that's off your aware of? Okay, thank you. All right, now, so we've got those two out of the way. Basically, back to item Roman 8, 3, bylaws and rules. And just so we're aware, we've got 2 requests for actions. They will require seconds. Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. We're gonna revisit, the vote on, the Government Affairs Committee. As I told everyone at the last meeting, I had already talked to our attorney as well as our coordinator, Open Candace, about this. Any committee, standing committee, ad hoc committee that we vote on, automatically is done. It becomes part of the standing, if we vote on the Government Affairs Committee, a standing committee, it becomes a standing committee the moment we create it. We don't need to worry about it. In fact, the problem with an ad hoc committee, it sunsets when the next elections come up. When we have to be reelected, all ad hoc committees disappear. We have to do it all over again. Government Affairs Committee, we don't want to have to do that all over again. That's why we need these rules, that way new people coming on will already have a template to go by. So once again, I'd like to ask for your vote to establish Government Affairs Committee to deal with council files. Council files, as a matter of fact, right now, bank is having their meetings. This is the normal night for banks meetings, second Thursday. And I do know that they're on their agendas, they got 2 council files that they wanted us to deal with, but I can't be there because I gotta be here. So therefore, there's always gonna be council files. So, and I've even thought of, I remember one of the things that we discussed, last month, even when we were doing the ad hoc committee, was how to staff that government affairs, committee. And the best thing I could think of was that since we have education committee, we have bylaws committee, we have planning and land use committee, we have outreach committee, I think someone from each one of those committees should staff the government affairs, because the city deals with everything. For every committee we have, the city has council files on. That would be in that realm. And that to me would probably be the easiest way. And I'm not saying that everybody has to come up with 5 or 6 council files. I think if you came up with one a month or one every other month, that would be more than sufficient, because I don't think we would have the time to deal with more than 1 or 2 council files per meeting. But I do know that there are council files that come before bank meetings that are then passed down to us that we were supposed to deal with. In fact, I remember, 3 months ago, I brought 3 council files here, and we just didn't have time enough to deal with them, and we didn't have mechanisms to deal with them. So that's why it's important to have a government affairs committee to deal with this kind of thing. Because it's not just what happens here in Granada Hills. What happens in Granada Hills happens with the entire city. Because these council files go to our city council. They're the ones who create these council files. And they're asking us, how do we want to proceed with it? And what's great about it now is, before, we could only vote up or down on an issue. Now, we can even make suggestions on how we think that council file should be changed and should be rewritten. So we have more latitude now than we ever had before. And I emailed Brad a number of times, he never got back to me on having Lydia Galvani come and give us a... Huh? No, you're supposed to invite her. You're the president.
All right.
I can't invite her.
Move the question.
She does an excellent PowerPoint, and I want not just the council, the board, to see her PowerPoint presentation. Everyone in this room, every stakeholder, should be able to at least visit the website and know how to maneuver around that website so they can see different council files, because stakeholders can actually come and say, you know what, I saw this council file, I have an opinion about it, and they should be able to bring it to us. I mean, that's what we're for.
Yeah.
We have to invite her.
I will invite her.
Okay. So anyway, that's all I have to say right now is I need a vote. I'm presenting this now, Government Affairs Standing Committee. I need a second, and then we need a vote.
What is the
The motion is to establish a Government Affairs Standing Committee, Government Affairs Committee.
Make recommendations on council
Let's
files.
point towards establishing the ad hoc committee. Should we just
It's not
say
speaking, I'm
that,
sorry.
strike the word ad hoc and place it standing?
Yes, we can.
Sounds fine to me. Okay, I will make that my motion. Or Eric, you can make that your motion.
Well, that's my motion
Okay.
with the friendly amendment to revise the ad hoc committee. No.
Okay, well, he's had his chance.
You said
Okay,
it.
a second.
Okay, who's the, you second.
I'm happy to.
Can it be a restatement, or is it just?
Okay, we're not a public
It was already established, now it's being made a permanent committee.
Yeah, standing committee.
We're rescinding and amending the motion from last month, striking the word ad hoc, replacing it with standing.
Thank you.
motion?
Yes.
Okay. And now you're gonna call for public comments?
Now we can call for public comment.
Sorry about that.
Yes.
This is a great idea, because if,
Stop.
okay.
Sorry. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to go by the numbers here. You made the motion, and did you second it?
Yes.
Oh, Darren seconded.
Oh, is it Darren second? Oh, okay.
Called it first.
Okay.
That's, all right, so now, you can recognize the public comment.
Okay. But, excuse me, give me your name again?
Mark.
Mark.
Now the deja vu. This is a great idea because we should be informed about what's going on in city legislation, and like you said, because it impacts not only us, but surrounding communities. And I would be very impressed if I lived in a neighborhood council district that was actually pursuing this kind of information.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Kuzma.
I said this last month when you started to form the committee, and it was very simply that in order to comply with this thing about the community impact statements, the board doesn't have to create a new committee just to do this. The point of done bringing this to the board's attention is so that the board could name 5 people that would have the password to be able to upload a community impact statement. When you start talking about creating a whole committee just to have these 5 people, well, again, I'm not sure that that's the best way to take care of it. You really have 2 issues. You have the submission of community impact statements, and then if you want to create a committee on governmental affairs, I'm all for it. There's lots of stuff going on in this city that we should be able to address. We should be able to write community impact statements on. We should be able to let our governmental officials know how we feel about these issues that are going on in the community. I think every board should have a governmental affairs committee because it's so important to our livelihood as citizens of Los Angeles. Although I don't believe that the committee should be created for the sole purpose of naming the individuals able to submit a community impact statement. I think that really the question should be split, so to speak. And appoint your 5 members. One of them a couple of them on PLUs. They're the ones that are going to deal with most issues that are going to come up before City Council that will actually have a council file and be accepting community impact statements. So I hope you'll just kind of consider that option before you actually form the committee. And also, if it's possible, find out how many board members are ready to volunteer to be on this committee at this point in time. Because if it's a committee, it should have a purpose that is really grand and really supports the public need in bringing those government services to the community. Thanks.
Well, I mean, wait a second. I do want to, because he did bring up a valid point. One of the things that you would do when you bring this before this board, so we need someone to look at what the council file says. And then we need someone, a group of people, to get together and formulate the language that we would like to put forth. And we don't have the time to do this at board meetings, to discuss a council file, what the language should be. That's part of the committee's duties, to get there, formulate a strategy on how we best should word. Because like I said, we can go more than just up and down. A year or 2 ago, that's the only way we could do it. We could either vote for that council file or we could vote against it. Now, we could put our opinion on it. So by having a group of people come together and vet, and by the way, on that committee, now just because only board members could submit the council file doesn't mean that stakeholders cannot be on that committee and say, this is what I think. In fact, I hope stakeholders, a stakeholder or 2 would want to be on that committee and say, I'd like to, voice my opinion on how this is going to happen. After all, we represent you, the stakeholders. So I sincerely hope you do come forward and say, you know what, I wouldn't mind sitting there, I wouldn't mind going through the council files and helping you write up the language of what we think should be submitted back to the city. So that's why you need a committee, because just saying yes or no to a council file doesn't really do us any good. Okay. Anybody else? Anyone else? Okay, saying that there isn't, let's call a vote. All in favor of establishing a government affairs committee, please, do we need a hand vote for this?
I would say a hand vote.
Okay, we need a hand vote. All in favor, raise your hand.
One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I believe that's unanimous vote.
Okay.
You want to ask for no's and abstentions? Just
Any objections?
abstentions.
Any
Abstentions.
abstentions?
No's.
Okay. Anybody not voting? Okay.
Good.
I guess it's good. Hmm? Oh, yeah, well, we're gonna get to that. Yeah, we're gonna get to that. Okay, and, the next thing is the funding guidelines. Again, one of the reasons we brought this up, and we did have a meeting of both the budget and the bylaws committee, and we came up with some recommendations. Does everybody have their?
It wasn't really meat. We didn't have to form, so.
Yeah, we didn't have a quorum. That's why we have to bring this here to the board. We didn't have a quorum, but we did come up with some recommendations of how we thought the funding guidelines should go. And the reason we thought it was important that we have some funding guidelines, again, not all of us are going to be here on this board forever. As people come and go off this committee, more and more people will come in, and they should have some framework to guide them on people coming with this neighborhood purpose grant and what we should be asking them. In the past, we pretty much didn't ask them anything other than the fact, how much money do you want? They came to us when we asked them how would we be credited with our assistance, our financial assistance, and a lot of people were kind of surprised. They didn't know what they should be doing for us. So I thought it would be great if whatever committee they came before, whether it was education, whichever committee the funding neighborhood purpose grant came to, they would have some things, and these guidelines should be handed out to anyone, any group, organization seeking a neighborhood purpose grant should have these in advance. That way they could see and they would already come prepared. So now we're going to be asking for some written requests instead of just coming up and saying, well, we'd like to have this, we'd like to have that. That never made any sense to me. So let me read it off. Number one, project should provide something of lasting value to the Granada Hills South Neighborhood Council community and stakeholders and widespread community participation. 2, project should be a cooperative venture among community organizations and stakeholders in the Granada Hills South Neighborhood Council area. 3, community organizations submit to the Granada Hills South Neighborhood Council a written statement of how project will benefit organization and community. 4, participating organizations must commit to maintaining the improvements being funded. 5, funding need requests should be a one-time action, not an ongoing, which fills a specific need for this community. 6, the project should be well-defined. It should have a well-defined budget with Granada Hills contribution clearly defined for both cost and items covered. 7, Granada Hills South Neighborhood Council will strongly encourage participants to seek additional funding and make an effort. 8, Granada Hills South Neighborhood Council will make an effort to distribute project funding equally throughout the Granada Hills South Neighborhood Council area. 9, Granada Hills South Neighborhood Council cannot reimburse individuals or organizations for expenditures that have already been made. 10, it's just, these are the funding request that is required that you go through the neighborhood empowerment or done for their neighborhood purpose grants. It's got the contact information where you can download the application. 11, project funded by the Granada Hills South Neighborhood Council should be promoted as sponsored by the Granada Hills South Neighborhood Council. 12, funding requests must contain a project timeline with project completion date. Projects that can be completed during a single fiscal year are preferred. And 13, funding recipients are encouraged to return to the board and demonstrate how the funding was received by the community and the impact it had on the community. So I think those are very simple funding guidelines that anybody would ask for if you were going out and requesting any kind of grant anywhere. Yes, Brandon?
So we're voting on exactly how it's worded?
Yes, unless there's something in the wording that you want to change.
Well, there's some typos and stuff like that I guess.
Which one?
7, make effort,
There's a few, I don't
yeah,
want to go through everyone.
make effort to secure funding, I think it's 7.
Number 7, Granada Hills will strongly encourage participants to seek additional funding and make an effort
To secure funding.
to seek additional funding and make an effort to secure, okay.
Yeah. And also on 10, you've got either via one parents, just take out the either and the one.
Which one?
Number 10.
Okay.
And
All funding must follow established Granada Hills and Department of Neighborhood Empowerment procedures.
We've just got to take out the word either and number 1.
I guess my point is, I don't know if you want to take the.
I think we can get it done real quickly. There's only 2 others that I see.
Okay.
And 13, return to the board.
Oh, okay.
And on the second, towards the end of the sentence, the how should be the should be the. I think we get those, it's fine.
Was receive funding community.
The impact it had on the community.
Okay,
Okay?
yes.
Okay. Then more substantively, what I was gonna suggest, and I think we discussed, was, I think it was number 7.
Yeah,
That, similar to how we were, how number 12 would, it would be like basically, if they're they're gonna, just come to us, then it would be more likely that we would not prefer that neighborhood purpose grant. That number 7 is saying strongly encourage participants to seek additional funding to make every effort for that funding, and those projects would be more preferred by us. Something to that effect. Similar to how we have with projects that can be completed during a single fiscal year are preferred. I think we discussed that in the meeting.
okay. So how do you want to change that? Number 7, Granada Hills South will strongly encourage participants to seek additional funding.
Projects that receive additional funding will be preferred.
Seeking funding would be preferred.
To have additional community funding will be preferred.
Or what about projects that receive widespread community,
Just remember, these are guidelines.
These are just
So,
guidelines.
I
Yeah.
mean,
suggesting that they look for more than just that.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Very good idea.
Yes, go ahead.
So first I just have a clarifying question and then some comments. these are guidelines which are gonna be handed out to applicants, but are not, any kind of rule incumbent on the board, correct?
Right.
We mean incumbent on board.
Meaning that what I'm concerned about is we put these in place and they become a factor for grievances or that sort of thing.
It's just
So
guidelines.
These are guidelines which are gonna be handed out to
Applicants, yes.
and are not incumbent on the board.
Right, I mean,
Right.
I
yeah,
thought using the word suggestions instead of guidelines.
yeah.
So.
No, they are guidelines. Remember, the board is following these as well. To give them something to go by to ask the applicants.
But just to be
But the
clear,
applicant-
they are not rules.
No, they're not rules. They're not
So,
rules. That's why it says guidelines.
To that end, I'd suggest that we make sure all of the language in this is permissive.
Yes.
So, for instance, item number 3, community organizations should submit to GHS&C a written statement.
Let me just clarify something. Some of these actually are requirements.
Well, I was actually gonna get to that. They are requirements today, but Dunn may change those. I'm thinking that we keep everything permissive in here because any requirement that Dunn has, we obviously have to follow. If they add new ones, we have to follow those. If they relax or change the character of any of the existing requirements, we should be able to just go ahead and go with that and not be locked into perhaps an older version.
No, we are. Because these are ours, we can change these and modify these as time goes on.
Yeah, we could always
Yeah, except that you can't put it on the agenda the day that somebody comes with the request where we say, well, gee, we ought to change
but
these.
these are just guidelines.
No, these are just guidelines.
Which is
In
why
other words,
we
every
should
year we
keep
can.
language.
But if they do change, the done changes the rule and you haven't updated this, the fact is that will take precedence of this.
Yeah, exactly.
So when they come here and we're apprised of those changes, then we'll express that to the person that's applying for it. But for instance, there's a couple items like you can't reimburse for individuals or organizations, that's actually in the guidelines.
Yeah,
Right.
that's already
Well,
a rule.
let me run through my list of changes and then, and explain what I'm thinking, maybe that'll clear it up. So, item 3, we just put the word should in there. Under 4, participating organizations must commit, you would say should commit.
Which one?
I'm sorry, so number 3, we just insert the word should after community organization.
Okay. Organization
Yeah,
should submit.
should submit. Number 4, participating organizations should commit to maintaining. When I get down to number 9, my honest opinion on that is that we should strike it because the reason is that if done, the way this is interpreted, we could approve a project, one of our board members could make the expense, and then we should be able to cut them a check, but we are technically reimbursing them after the expense has been made. I think the wording on this is a little faulty, and the fact is that Dunn may at some point relax this requirement that they currently have.
You know what, I don't see Dunn ever relaxing that measure, ever.
Okay, but nonetheless,
Because it's not done in the city.
What's the purpose of putting it in here?
Because people will come forth and say, well, I've already spent money on this and I want to be reimbursed for it. We can't do that.
What it should really technically say, Jerry, is that.
We can't vote to do it, but we can't.
Jerry, what it should accurately say is cannot reimburse for any expenses made prior to the grant being approved.
Yeah.
That's
Jerry
all.
says a board member can do something.
Or any expenditure being approved, not just.
So in other words, they can't come in
Well,
here and say.
let me
"We spent
make a better
$500."
example. Let's say that I have to go get copies made for a meeting,
Right.
and.
But these
then I
are
come
only
and I-
neighborhood purpose grants. These are only for neighborhood purpose grants. These are not for
Okay.
issues here dealing with this board because you spent money on copies or something like that. This is for only neighborhood purpose
Okay,
grants.
So they can't come in and say, we spent $500 last week on something and now we'd like a grant.
Yeah,
No,
you
they
can't do that.
They
Right,
can
no,
say,
I-
we want to spend $500.
I understand.
And when it's
I just-
approved,
I
then
think
they
we're-
spend the $500.
But I think we're unnecessarily placing a restriction upon us for something that may come up in the future that we
But we can always address guidelines. Everybody keeps thinking that these are permanent and fixed in stone. They're not, they're guidelines.
But we have some of these guidelines.
You know what? Dr. Campbell had a good point. Just strike the word guidelines and make it considerations.
No, they need to be guidelines.
Okay.
They need to be guidelines.
Well, I'm just
With
trying
number
to.
five, what's an ongoing, we supply, the Parks and Recs with, Easter, Halloween.
Okay, and here's a good example.
Is that an ongoing situation?
It,
I mean, you have to clearly define these things.
well, an ongoing situation is somebody who automatically comes back and requests, I'll give you a good example. Friends of the Library. They've got a bigger budget than we do, and yet they come here and they ask for $500 to $1,000 every year. And you know what? I've been up there and I haven't seen our names anywhere.
Eric?
Because they asked for it, and so we give them to them.
Okay, Eric, can I break in here for a second?
Sure.
At that
And
time,
we
the
do-
money rolls over.
Okay, folks, please, we're losing one board member due to a prior commitment, and he's also the secretary. And we do have people here from the community, and if we're having this much discussion about this, and I hate to say this, but maybe we should try and come back at this the second cut.
You know, no matter how many cuts we do, we'll always have somebody who will be a detractor on something. We can always adjust this. Let's get it approved, and then let's adjust it as time goes on. These are guidelines. These are not hard and fast rules.
Okay, it's your motion.
Jesus. Okay. Anybody else got anything to say?
Yeah, we did have a joint committee meeting set up for the purpose of discussing this, and we didn't get quorum. That was where we could have vetted all these shoulds and musts and all that.
And my suggestion,
I have to agree. There's just too many of these small things. I mean, one or two, we can get by, but there are just too many things hanging out.
Okay, this is what I'm gonna do. I tell you what, I will withdraw this. Okay.
I agree there. I think that this is easy enough to change if you want in the future, but you don't want it now. I don't think you should wait another month. I think that we should go forward with the motion with these few clerical corrections, including the one that said should submit, should commit, leave number 9 in because it doesn't hurt, and just get it to today because it may be months before we get this to the point we want to change it. And then you can bring a motion. Somebody can push later on to make changes to this, and it's easier to do that, to vote on the changes than to start all over. Because it's been 2 months that we've had this, and these changes are so minuscule, and it's only guidelines, that one word here or there is not gonna change the effect of it, and it should be done and get on the website.
I don't see the urgency in it. Right? This isn't preventing us from making funding decisions.
It is because the committees that are supposed to vet these, the way I see it, the committees in the past who are supposed to vet these have not really did a proper job because they haven't had any guidelines to go by to vet them. And as Bonnie just said, people are coming forth right now. They have nothing to go by, so what do? They just come in and ask for the money. They don't write any statement. They don't give us anything to look at. They just say, hey, I need $1,000.
Technically, all we have to do is meet the requirements of the AG.
Well,
But the thing about this, we don't get a chance to vet.
So I mean, if you bring it back, nice and neat, it'll pass. There's too many open ends.
Motion withdrawn.
No, I don't withdraw the motion. If you want to vote it down, vote it down.
Move to refer